Have you ever been caught between your head and your heart? Between what you should do and what you want to do? It's a classic human struggle, but imagine if your decision could bring down an entire empire. This was the reality for Mark Antony, one of Rome's most powerful men whose life became the ultimate story of love versus duty. Let's set the scene. Rome in the 1st century BC is a powerhouse, but it's also a political viper's nest. After Julius Caesar's assassination, power is split between 3 men in the second triumvirate: Octavian, Caesar's calculating heir; Lepidus, the senior statesman; and our man Mark Antony, the brilliant general and charismatic politician. Antony's sphere of influence is the East, the wealthiest part of the Roman world. And in the heart of that world is Egypt, ruled by the most captivating woman of the age, Cleopatra. When Antony first summoned Cleopatra to Tarsus, he intended to question her loyalty and secure her kingdom's resources for Rome. He was the Roman conqueror, she the client queen. But Cleopatra didn't arrive as a supplicant. She sailed up the Cydnus River in a magnificent barge, dressed as the goddess Venus, surrounded by an aura of divine mystique. Antony, who saw himself as the god Dionysus, was utterly enchanted. That meeting wasn't just a political negotiation, it was the spark that lit a legendary fire. He followed her back to Alexandria, and there, he experienced a life he'd never known. The winter of 41 to 40 BC was a whirlwind of lavish parties, intellectual debates, and unrestrained passion. In Alexandria, Antony wasn't just a Roman general, he was a king, a god, a lover. He and Cleopatra formed their own society, the inimitable livers, dedicated to a life of pleasure and extravagance. For a man who had spent his life on battlefields and in the rigid, backstabbing world of Roman politics, this was intoxicating. This was a world of desire, a world where he felt truly alive, a world completely at odds with the austere, duty-bound life expected of a Roman leader. But while Antony was lost in Alexandria, Rome was not sitting still. Back in the capital, Octavian was consolidating his power, painting Antony as a man who had abandoned his responsibilities, bewitched by a foreign queen. The Senate was growing restless. They saw Antony, their strongest general, neglecting his duties, going native in the decadent East. The pressure mounted. Fulvia, Antony's own wife in Rome, even instigated a war against Octavian, partly to try and force Antony's return to Italy. The message from Rome was clear: come back, fulfill your duty, remember who you are. Antony was ripped from his Alexandrian paradise. He had to return to Rome to put out political fires. To patch things up, he made a very Roman, very political decision. He married Octavian's sister, Octavia. It was a strategic alliance, a promise of loyalty to Rome sealed with a wedding vow. For a while, it seemed like duty had won. Antony was back in the fold, a respected Roman husband and statesman. He and Octavia were seen as a model couple, a symbol of a reunified and peaceful Rome. But can you ever truly forget a love that powerful? The pull of Cleopatra and the life he had in Egypt was too strong. While on campaign in the East, he sent for her again. This time, it wasn't just a dalliance. It was a definitive choice. He publicly acknowledged the twins he'd had with her and later another son. Then came the donations of Alexandria. In a grand, theatrical ceremony, Antony and Cleopatra sat on golden thrones. He declared her queen of kings and divided the vast eastern territories of Rome amongst her and their children. To the Romans, this was the ultimate betrayal. It was more than an insult, it was treason. He wasn't just giving away Roman land, he was creating a rival dynasty, an Eastern empire with Alexandria as its capital. Octavian seized on this, using it as the perfect propaganda tool. He read Antony's will aloud in the Senator will that allegedly confirmed these donations and expressed Antony's wish to be buried in Alexandria, not Rome. The Roman people were horrified. Antony was no longer one of them. He was a puppet of a foreign sorceress who wanted to rule them all. This was the turning point, the point of no return. Octavian didn't declare war on Antony directly. That would have meant another civil war. Instead, he declared war on Cleopatra. It was a master stroke. The conflict was now framed not as a Roman power struggle, but as a defense of Rome against a foreign enemy. Antony was forced to choose a side, and he chose her. He chose love. He chose the life they had built together, the personal happiness he'd found in her arms, over his Roman identity and his political future. The final act of this tragedy played out at sea, at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC. It was a decisive naval battle, Antony and Cleopatra's forces against Octavian's. The details of the battle are debated, but the outcome is not. Midway through the fight, Cleopatra's squadron broke away from the line and sailed for Egypt. And Antony, in a move that has baffled historians for centuries, abandoned his fleet and his men to follow her. Why? Was it a prearranged escape plan? Or was it the impulsive act of a man so in love that he couldn't bear the thought of being separated from her, even in defeat? Whatever the reason, his men saw it as desertion. His fleet, leaderless and demoralized, surrendered. The war was effectively over. Antony's political career was finished. His reputation as a great general was shattered. All that was left was the final, tragic end. When Octavian's forces closed in on Alexandria, a false report reached Antony that Cleopatra had taken her own life. Devastated, believing he had lost everything, he fell on his sword. But the wound was not immediately fatal. As he lay dying, he learned that Cleopatra was still alive, barricaded in her mausoleum. His loyal guards carried him to her, and he died in her arms. It was a dramatic, heart-wrenching end for a man who had lived such a big life. Cleopatra, now a captive of Octavian, knew her fate. She would be paraded through the streets of Rome in a triumphal procession, a symbol of Octavian's victory and her own humiliation. She chose to die by her own hand, famously, as legend tells it, by the bite of an asp. She died a queen, avoiding the fate of a Roman prisoner. So, what do we make of Antony's dilemma? Did he make the right choice? From a Roman perspective, absolutely not. He betrayed his country, abandoned his duty, and threw away immense power for a woman. He chose personal desire over the good of the state. But from another angle, can we blame him? He found a love and a partnership that transcended politics, a life of genuine happiness away from the treacherous courts of Rome. In a world where marriages were political tools, he found a real connection. Antony's story isn't just a historical event, it's a timeless human drama. It forces us to ask ourselves what we would sacrifice for love. What is the price of happiness? And when duty and desire collide, which path do you choose? Antony made his choice, and it cost him an empire. But in doing so, he and Cleopatra created a story of passion so powerful that we are still talking about it over 2,000 years later. Thanks for watching. If you're fascinated by the epic stories of the ancient world, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into history's most compelling figures. See you next time.